Vermont? Okay.
Yeah, so in many ways, I'll be echoing a lot of what's already been said. For some of us, we structured a lot of our off-surface opportunities. So for me in particular, actually, during the early months of the pandemic, I had the unique perspective from the centralized strike or response team. So that was really interesting from that perspective with respect to seeing how, our protocols were being changed on a regular basis. And then like Mila was saying, with respect to communication, learning very early on how to streamline that and really highlight some major modifications to safety protocols and PPE. And part of the effort for the team very early on was not just clinically operating amidst this uncertainty, but also just thinking about how to handle good communication, thinking more short and long term now about collecting all this data so we can risk stratify and be more diligent about targeting some of our follow-ups for some of our vulnerable patients, which we started doing thanks to the help of some of our interdisciplinary partners, like our care managers, to really make that feasible. So that was a really nice perspective to get from that. With respect to my own sense of whether or not I felt that I had sufficient PPE, I was not concerned at any point. I know we were working within the larger landscape, of course, where there was a lot of fear, and my own family is actually in New York City. So it was a fear very much at the forefront of my mind. But we were lucky. Our attendings made it very clear early on, our residency program leadership in particular, that if there was any particular scenario we did not feel comfortable with, we did not have to enter, and that our safety was a priority, such as with respect to codes, and to not go in with a mortar mentality, of course, and just to make sure you were protected before going in to help run that code, or run that code, I should say. And then, I mean, now, I think, like it was mentioned before, for some aspects of the PPE, like for my case in particular, I'm a small, the Builduck N95. So we actually changed our suppliers, and I did not pass a fit test for that. And I think quite a few people did not. So we're still engaging in extended use of the N95 masks, and I've been like storing all of my old ones in my locker. And I think a lot of us have been as well, being very diligent about our use. So that's definitely something that's I'm still considering. But otherwise, overall, I think it was an experience, for all of us, I think both difficulties, but also, a lot of successes. There was so much rapid innovation that took place. Like I briefly worked at our ICU and saw how they very quickly reorganized the space, reorganized how they were connecting patients to ventilators and having a lot of the IVs connections outside to minimize the nurses' exposure. And then also, seeing from the hospital leadership side, at least, how they were thinking worst case scenarios with respect to resource allocation, such as ventilators. We obviously never got to that point, but starting to think about the ethical ramifications of that was eye-opening for sure. I agree. I mean, great. Similar at our site as well, in terms of learning some of the strong ways that we were communicating with the team and the entire hospital, and as well as system-wide level. Something that, I hope that we will continue doing at our site as well as other sites. Streamlining as well, the workflows. And again, like was said, making sure that there is strong interdepartmental communication as well, as to support any changes that are made. But for me in particular, I think we've already started to prepare to some degree for the increased social needs we'll also be seeing at our hospital, and all across the board. But I can't help thinking with COVID, we're going to have greater needs with people becoming unemployed in higher numbers and subsequently experiencing more food and housing insecurity, and the mental health needs have also gone up dramatically, while at the same time we're going to get ongoing cuts in state and federal funding for public safety net hospitals and public health departments. So I think being able to navigate within that landscape is going to be especially important in this coming surge, and being prepared to really, again, like take advantage of our existing resources and partnering with different stakeholders to make that happen. But I'm hopeful it will happen. Personal, positive outcome is pretty easy for me. I'm just spending more time with my family. who is now working from home. So that's been really nice. But in terms of professionally, I think, and this is a big part of well-being as well, is just when you're walking into your workplace feeling that you're part of a larger family and you feel protected and also entrusted mutually for each other's well-being. And so that's definitely a sense that was very strongly developed within our ED, not only, but also our entire hospital. And being a part of that is really, I think, what helped a lot of us manage the uncertainty, the fears, as well as a lot of the emotional distress that comes with, of course, taking care of patients at bedside who can't be with their family members, and in many ways trying to act for them as well. Surrogate, won't be the same, but family as well by their bedside. So for me, that was a big positive thing that change happened.
The conference chief at CRI, so it's definitely, I think, necessitated that we think more innovatively about the structure of the sessions and how to really keep people engaged and keep it timely as well. And also, often trying to strive for a backup plan always, because, even for this week, for instance, we had everything planned with all of our speakers almost months in advance for in-person. And then a week ago, we really appreciate the flexibility of some speakers. Some new speakers came on board as well for this week earlier today, for our virtual version of the conference. I think it was Dr. Patel who mentioned this earlier about simulations, and, that, that's like a barrier, I think, to do effectively in a virtual format. And that's still something we're exploring to do, especially with respect to doing procedural experiences, or even doing more social simulation cases, which is what I've been working on for the past several months. So I think with that respect, that's been a challenge. The benefit, though, and I think Dr. Smith had mentioned this before, is that we have been able to recruit some really great guest speakers from across the country to talk to us and teach us. And I don't think that we would have had the same opportunity without it being in a virtual capacity.